Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're going to dive right into the Quran to investigate a very direct question, one that comes up a lot in discussions about the text.
So let's just get right to it. What specific age does the Quran set for marriage? Was it 15, 18, some other number? Well, the answer might actually surprise you.
Yeah, that's right. The Quran doesn't actually name a specific age. Instead, it gives us a set of conditions, kind of like a formula that needs to be solved. And to really understand that formula, we first have to get the bigger picture of what marriage is supposed to be according to the text.
Okay, so before we get to the core formula, let's look at the broader context the Quran sets up for marriage. It's presented as a really significant and serious commitment, and it comes with quite a few prerequisites.
You can see here, the text lays out this whole framework where marriage is treated as a solemn contract. It demands things like mutual agreement, financial responsibility, and this is a big one, the maturity to handle not just the marriage itself, but also really complex things like divorce proceedings. So it's definitely not a light matter. Now, with all that in mind, the central clue for our whole investigation comes from a place you might not expect at all, a verse that's actually about protecting orphans and their property.
And that's a great question, right? How on earth can a rule about an orphan's inheritance set a universal standard for marriage? Well, it's because this specific verse lays out a test of maturity that has implications far beyond just one situation. Okay, let's dig into this verse. It says to test orphans until they reach the marriageable age. But that's not the end of the test. After they hit that milestone, you also have to determine if they have sound judgment. Only then, after both conditions are met, can they get their inheritance.
So you see, it's a crucial two-part test. Passing condition 1, reaching the marriageable age, doesn't automatically mean you get a pass on the second. An orphan has to demonstrate both physical readiness and sound judgment before they're seen as responsible enough to manage their own wealth.
So let's get really clear on this second condition, rushed. This Arabic term isn't just about being smart. It's talking about a maturity of intellect, a proven ability to manage her own life responsibly. It's a very practical, real-world measure of adulthood.
Okay, now this is where the whole investigation gets really fascinating. We can actually define a marriageable age even more clearly by looking at how the Quran talks about orphans in other verses. There's this amazing linguistic link we can follow. Right now, the term marriageable age is still a little bit vague. To really solve this, we need to bring in another key Arabic word that the Quran uses to describe the exact same milestone, that point when an orphan is ready to get their property. And that word is ashuda. It basically means physical maturity, marking that whole development phase from being a teenager to becoming an adult. And what's interesting is that other verses explicitly state that orphans get their wealth when they reach ashuda. And this is how we connect the dots. It's really just a simple piece of logic. Step 1. One set of verses says orphans get their wealth when they reach ashuda, or physical maturity. Step 2. That other verse we just looked at says they get it after reaching marriageable age and showing sound judgment. So what does that mean? The only logical conclusion, step 3, is that marriageable age must begin at ashuda. The two terms are describing the start of the very same period.
So let's bring it all together for the final verdict. When you connect these verses, the text reveals its formula, not just for handling an orphan's wealth, but for the commitment of marriage itself. So here it is, the Quranic standard for marriage isn't a number. It's a two-part condition. A person must have reached physical maturity, ashuda, and they must demonstrate sound judgment, rushed. It's not one or the other. Both are absolutely required. This flowchart from our source material really lays it out perfectly. An individual first has to reach the age of physical maturity. That's the baseline. At that point, a test of their sound judgment is applied. If and only if they demonstrate that capacity to manage their own affairs, then they are entrusted with major responsibilities, their wealth, and by logical extension, the solemn contract of marriage. And this leaves us with a final thought. The text provides a model that's based on comprehensive maturity, not just your chronological age. So the question is, what would it look like if we applied this principle of proven maturity, both physical and intellectual, to other major responsibilities in life? That's definitely something to think about.